What did you make of the questions that the justices were asking you today?
I thought the justices asked really very much the questions that we expected. They asked questions about why this law could potentially be different from the Texas law. Why should the outcome for the state of Louisiana be different from its neighbor Texas? And then they asked a few questions, not as many as I had expected, but a few questions about the standing issues.
And what were the questions on the standing issues?
I got a few questions from Justice Alito asking about this conflict argument that the state had made. But as I said in my answers, this is really an issue that the court has looked at before in its other cases, and it's never been an issue before. So the precedent, stare decisis, is just as much on our side on the standing points as it is on the merits that this law is unconstitutional.
How do you feel after giving your presentation, hearing the questions, walking out today?
I feel good. I think that I was able to answer all of the justices' questions. I felt prepared, and I hope that the presentation I made was helpful to them.
Anything that surprised you from today?
Really not, actually. I think all of the questions were very much ones that we expected.
The standing issue, I think, is one that is difficult for someone at home to understand. It's very in the weeds. Can you help us break that down, and then what would be the impact of them upholding that issue?
Yes, absolutely. So the state of Louisiana is arguing that the doctors shouldn't be able to bring this case. They shouldn't be allowed to file it and litigate it, and instead it has to be left to individual women. And that argument has problems for a couple of reasons. One is it's completely contrary to what the Supreme Court has said in many, many cases. It's clear the doctors can bring these cases. The second that's really ironic about the argument is that this law applies to the doctors. It doesn't apply to the patients. It directly regulates the doctors, and it is a strategy that has been used in order to restrict abortion, is to impose requirements on doctors and clinics. So it would be ironic if the doctors then couldn't challenge those laws. And I think the last part of your question, what would be the real world impact? It would really be devastating, because the reality is that most women cannot bring these cases themselves. And the court has really recognized that before. Women are concerned about their privacy. They're concerned about stigma. There are protesters outside of clinics in Louisiana taking pictures of people who go in and out of the clinics. And in the age of social media, it would be very difficult for a woman to keep her decision private. And then, of course, there's the other obstacle that once a woman finds out she's pregnant, she has only a few weeks to get an abortion, and she'd have to file the case in that exact window of time. And for our case, she'd then have to keep it going for 5.5 years. It's been 5.5 years since we filed this case. And there's just no reason to do any of that. The state hasn't explained what would be different if there was a woman in this case instead of the physicians.
Many people are going to be looking at the questions that Kavanaugh raised today. Can you characterize what those were and kind of how you reacted to them?
I believe Justice Kavanaugh asked a couple of different questions. I think it had to do with, could a law that imposed admitting of privileges, but every doctor had privileges, would that be unconstitutional? And what I said is, the court has already said that admitting privileges have no benefit for patients. They do nothing for health whatsoever. And generally, laws that have no benefit can't be constitutional, but that's also not what's at issue in this case, because the district court here, the judge in Baton Rouge, found that this law has no benefit and also has extreme burdens. It would leave just one doctor in the whole state to provide abortions, even greater burdens than the court found from the law in Texas. And so it's clear that the court's previous decision should really control here.